Hello, everyone, and welcome. I will have everybody joining me in just a moment. Hello, nature friends. Welcome. It's so lovely to have you here. I'm Vanda Cummins from Loki Loves, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you've joined me today. I'm still just setting things up a bit, so thanks for your patience. Now we have a amazing journey coming up in October. We're going to learn all about shorebirds and wetlands. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a self-taught watercolorist. I live in southeast Melbourne. I'm lucky enough to live by the beach, which has been my dream for my whole life. And I've been painting for about 5 years. I'm going to be bringing on Genevieve shortly and Kathy, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them. But I thought I'd start by actually saying a little bit about my heart because I don't talk about my art an awful lot. I seem to just do it and then talk about everything else that I do. So my art is solely based on nature and my connection to it. It is my biggest driver. It's something that brings me absolute joy and calm and also gets me as excited as a toddler in a sugar store. One thing I love about art is its ability to say so much without words. And my artworks are often on a white background so that the focus is solely on the subject, so that it's taken out of its environment and almost exalted in a way, to try and share the emotions that I've got connected to it. I don't know how well that comes across, but it's certainly something I enjoy doing, and I do dabble now and then in backgrounds. I've been lucky enough to partner with some amazing organisations over the last years, allowing my art to have so much more impact, allow me to learn so much more, and meet some incredible people. And while I may be an Aussie now, my journey with nature started a place far removed from the Australian bush. I grew up in Notting Hill, London, and we had a beautiful wide lined tree-lined streets that I lived on, and lots of local parks, but they were really small, and the majority of birds were sparrows and pigeons. But amidst that jungle, I found a deep connection to seek out green spaces and nature. And luckily, growing up with a family of animal lovers, there was no shortage of inspiration for me there. So those fleeting moments in London parks, the quiet cordons in the gardens, and the stories of wildlife I saw on TV, it really ignited a spark in me. And that spark's just grown brighter and brighter as I've journeyed across continents to Australia, which has now really become my home. I've never felt more at home. So whether I'm exploring or if I'm having a walk with Loki, my dog, or whatever I'm doing, I've found that my observation over the last few years while I've been painting has really grown, and it's allowed me to cultivate more of my curiosity, to celebrate the incredible world around us. And even though I was brought to art through chronic pain, it's opened my world up in a way I never would have thought. So there's a little bit more about me that I don't generally share. Oh, I don't like talking about me. Now I have the pleasure of introducing you to one of my remarkable guests who's all about spreading the joy and the beauty through nature. She's a true gem in the world of art and creativity, and I think that the more you get to know her, the more you'll love her, just like I am. And let me bring on Genevieve. Hey, Genevieve, how are you?
I'm so good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, fantastic, thanks. I'm so glad you can make it. I know you're super busy, so I really appreciate you being able to come on.
I wouldn't miss something like this. I do want to say we have got a very special guest on my end as well. This is
Yes,
Credence.
you do.
He might bark. He just likes to contribute. So
That's not a problem at all. Now, Genevieve is a very talented NAM-based illustrator, and she creates delightful nature-inspired works. You love to celebrate the joy that nature brings and the incredible landscapes we have in here in we have in Australia.
yep.
I'm going to have a cup of tea and I'm going to let you introduce yourself, darling. Tell us a
Ah,
little bit more about how your artistic and nature creativity came about?
I think similar to you, I was really fortunate with my background and growing up in an area that had lots of nature. My mum is an animal lover as well, an avid hiker and bushwalker and beach goer. So that was my upbringing, and that's had a huge influence on me. But a little bit different. My art is very selfish, I find, because I wanted to understand why I liked nature. I wasn't so worried about everyone else to begin with. I wanted to know why it made me feel good, and that sort of study brought me to creating things that would make other people feel good a little bit as well, hopefully. But for the most part, I really like nature. I like to illustrate it, and illustrating itself as a practice, I find, is a really calming thing too. So a lot of what I do is good for me and then also good for everyone else.
That's often where our interests start, right? Something that sparks within us, and then we realize, wow, this is just, it's so big, it's like a secret. I don't want to keep it to myself. I want to share it.
That's absolutely right. And it was kind of an eye opener. I've done a lot of study in my life. I'm one of those perpetual studiers. But I studied illustration, and a lot of my content was around animals or nature or curious things that I found, and I wanted to sort of illustrate those or just natural elements. And then I went on to study a master's of illustration, and in that, I was really able to kind of study why I was doing that. Why did I enjoy that so much, and what is it about that? And in doing that, it was like a secret was my eyes were opened, a door was unlocked, but I didn't really realize before that nature was the thing that was making me feel good. That spending time outdoors, that's so good for our well-being, our physical state, everything. But I didn't connect two and two until I started actually looking into it further. And when I did, I was like, oh, duh, like it makes so much sense that this is why I feel good. And maybe others don't realize it either, but as soon as you hear it, as soon as someone says it, you're like, yeah, oh yeah, every time I go for a walk, I do feel a bit better. Like, yeah.
For me, I find it a really weird thing because I always loved being outside, but like you couldn't never thought anything of it. And it was only when I got sick and realized that I couldn't go outside so much that I really started trying to analyze
Yeah.
the difference that being indoors and not being able to go outdoors or make it. And I'm like, we all know, we all carry our own burdens, right? And we all know people that struggle with, for different reasons, to be able to get out into nature.
Yeah.
But when they do, it's like a weight is lifted off you. Your problems just don't seem as big or as urgent or as heavy. I was out walking today in the afternoon sun, and I could quite as happily have spent another 2 hours out there. It was just a dream listening to the birds and the bees.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on that, a lot of people that do sort of have an idea of how good nature can be, they kind of think you have to go somewhere that's really in the wilderness. You don't. You really don't. Seeing some of the pigeons, there's so much wonder in pigeons. Don't get me started on that. But the different species and the different colors, once you start looking at them just within your city streets, you're still
Mm,
reaping some of those benefits. You don't have to be bush
very
bashing
much so.
to enjoy it.
Exactly. And here we've got such beautiful gardens.
Yeah.
Everybody cultivates their front gardens, and it's
Mhm.
absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of, like, public parks and spaces that you
Yeah,
can really enjoy as well. So, yeah, you
yeah.
don't have to
And
go too
dog friendly, which is awesome.
far.
Well, talking about nature, dogs, and enthusiasm, I know someone else who's pretty enthusiastic that you know. I'd love to introduce you to a true nature enthusiast. In her own words, she's a nature nerd, a natural history nerd. Kathy from Remember the Wild. How are you doing, darling?
Ooh,
Oh, I can't hear
so
you.
cute.
What's happened?
There we
There
go.
we go.
Oh,
I think we
Press
both
button.
did it at the same time. Sorry, I think we both muted at the same time.
I'm here now though, right?
yeah, we've gotcha.
Yeah, I'm so good, Vanda, and I've been really enjoying listening to you and Genevieve for the last couple of minutes. And so stoked to be joining for Remember the Wild, to be joining Loki Loves Inktober again this year. Could not be more excited, and I'm really looking forward to getting my pens and pencils out. Well, pencils, because
It's the OG. It's the Inktober OG.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm just excited to sort of gate crash that a little bit this year. Oh, I'm so keen to get started.
You're not gate crashing. Oh, no. Don't think you're getting away that easy. You're coming, you're all in, girly. You're all in, and I'm so like it's a wonderful thing doing it in small, but in the team that we've got, including Minnie from Wing Threads, it's amazing. It's like the dream team for doing anything like this.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped.
So, Kathy, your journey with Remember the Wild started from that same kind of enthusiasm you were just talking about, you know, where it's you find yourself in the wild and you're aware of all of these things, and you start becoming more observant and seeing more, and your eye catches more things as you go. But then you decided to take it a step further. You decided you wanted to become a volunteer.
Yeah. So I guess like you guys, I was very lucky to already be engaged with nature growing up and have lots of beautiful things around me to hook me into nature. And when I was studying my my master's in science to kind of head down the environmental science pathway, I met a few other people who could look back to having the same kind of upbringing, but were noticing that around us, amongst our friends, there maybe wasn't the same connection that we were experiencing. And at that same time, we came across this concept called the extinction of experience. And the extinction of experience is essentially the extinction of those incidental nature experiences that we would have every day. So looking back generationally, just based on this people's surroundings from, you know, in the last 100 years being more rural and then into the super urbanized society that we have now. Each generation has kind of seen a loss of those incidental experiences. And at the same time, we're also losing species at a rapidly increasing rate. And so what happens with the extinction of experience is that the less you're encountering nature in those everyday ways, the less you notice it or are interested in it anyway. And it kind of snowballs into this effect where obviously people who aren't engaged with nature are less likely to care for it, and the less likely you are to care for it, the more destruction and loss we're having in nature. And I say in nature, but these days we really recognize that actually we are nature, and even just separating it from ourselves like that is part of that alienation of ourselves from what is actually a huge part of ourselves, which is our community within the human and more than human space, and our reliance on it. And so when we you know, that's not a new, the extinction of experience has been talked about for decades. But when we saw it, we were thinking, we were gutted that people weren't having these same connections to nature that we were, and we could really see that unless people do care, they're not going to be motivated to protect. And so we started up Wild Melbourne, just as a little website telling stories about nature in Victoria. And then since then we've become Remember the Wild, which is national, still based in Victoria, but we do projects around Australia working to connect people with the nature that's in their backyard. Again, like you're saying, Genevieve, making sure people know nature's not out there, it's all around us all the time. And if we develop a love and a sense of custodianship for the nature that we are directly connected to on our patch, whether that's in the bush, on a rural property, or in the skyscrapers of Melbourne, we can all have, one, an impact on how nature is protected into the future, and two, benefits from nature for our own health and well-being and for the health and well-being of society in general. So we love working in the artistic space, because for Remember the Wild, we know that humans learn through stories and through connection, and not through straight out facts. And so art brings a huge practical perspective to that as well, because not only do people soak up stories through viewing and interacting with art, but they also, it is a way to observe. Any artist will tell you that they have a way of looking at a natural object or any object to actually notice the features that are going to render it as a realistic image on the page. And so I know that a lot of people that take up nature journaling, for instance, they take it up as a way to enjoy nature, but they find they understand nature more through just being more observant in those ways. And so this Inktober challenge, we absolutely love it.
It is truly, truly fantastic. Like the first time we did it together, I thought, wow, this is terrifying, but it's going to be amazing. But it really blew me away. I was just, breathtaking by the amount of effort that everybody put into it, what everyone was learning, that there was people that were posting facts that I hadn't even come across. And I did like hours and hours of research and everything. It was just wonderful. And it was that contagious, that pickup where there's so much enthusiasm there. There's so much love there that it's just so easy to get lost in it.
It's just creating little sparks. With every prompt, there was something that someone might connect with. And like you said, they're just running off and learning everything about that thing themselves. And I was, from Remember the Wild's perspective, we were really surprised at the intense engagement we had from the art community at that time. Actually, I don't know what words are right now, but the like how much people were actually connecting with the individual animals and plants that we were sharing, then they weren't necessarily from an environmental background. And that it really did. I think that Vanda, there'd be a few artists in the community that you'd know of that really could speak to that as starting more of an environmental engagement pathway for them.
Yeah, very much so. And it's awesome coming up to Inktober. I'm getting a flood of messages and emails from people saying, I don't usually draw, but I enjoyed this so much that I'm going to join again this year. And there's that momentum that October's coming. It's time to get arty and learn about animals, and that just gets me excited. It's and from an artist perspective, you can do art for so many different reasons, but to be able to do good, like have art with purpose, is so special. The impact of a single piece of art can seem so small. Doesn't matter if you're a professional artist or a hobbyist. Every single brush stroke, every line carries a message, doesn't it? And when you're creating art and you're learning about the species and you're really in that moment, and you've got that picture of what their ecology or habitat or struggles are, you can really put that emotion into your work. So even that small artwork can create so many ripples that extend far beyond. And it sparks those conversations. It's really worth posting them, even if it's in your stories for your community to see, because people will ask you questions and they'll get caught up in what you're doing.
That's absolutely it. Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I waffled on then.
No.
But I do get so excited about it. And for a lot of artists, it was a really amazing way to be part of a community for change. We all want change at the end of the day. And at the moment, I think with the way the world is, that can be a really confronting feeling to have, because you feel like you've got no way of starting that change, of having an impact, But a lot of people can come together with one voice. A lot of people can come together on some of the tiniest little things and make an impact. And that's what I really, really love about it.
Yeah, and you really cannot, you can't overstate the importance of being a champion for nature, just through what you post and your conversations. So, the love that you feel for a bird or something that you've learned about is absolutely contagious. And the more and more that we study this, the more we see that that people sharing their love for animals, plants, the environment, and the experiences they have in the day-to-day and their artworks absolutely has an impact on their peer network and on the way that those people behave in their lives and reduce their environmental footprint, and even in the way that they vote and the policies that they'll accept. So
Yeah.
It's you really can't overstate how important it is just to be a champion for nature amongst your own community.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very
And
much so.
it comes down to as well, it's that awareness that you're raising. As
Mhm.
soon as you're sharing something that you're so passionate about, you know, even if some of your followers, some of your colleagues hadn't heard of this particular bird, this particular frog, whatever it is, you know, they now know. There's
Yeah.
that knowledge is now there. So, you know, you just kind of creating a little army of warriors that they care and they know.
And you give those animals importance through your love and obvious
Yeah.
interest in them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the point you touched on before, Kathy, with, you know, you change your lifestyle. Changes start appearing in your life, maybe
Yeah.
even without you consciously realizing it. And coming here, I'm living by the beach. I live by a river. There's a lot of wildlife. There's a lot of green spaces dotted around. And it really made me aware of, I mean, I try and be quite good with the products I purchase, but it really made me stop and think, well, what's going into the water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
down to cleaning products, my toothpaste, like things that aren't high on that scale of, you know, changing this can have an impact on my environment. But it does. SPF, I'm now marine safe SPF as
Yeah.
well. I reckon within the year, I'm going to have a really nice clean house. Not clean as in cleaning, because I'm really not good at that, but clean as in no products that are actually
Yeah.
harming the environment.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel really, really good. And I'm
Yeah.
supporting a lot of small businesses that way as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, you know, fostering those nature connections, it affects our health, it affects our mind, our body, our rhythms, our house, our friends. I think we all know that when we get on a little bandwagon for something or get excited about something, we tell our friends. And then from there, it kind of, the conversations explode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So another thing that I wanted to touch on was dive a little bit deeper into kind of benefits of nature, and not just necessarily being outside in nature. It can be thinking about it, watching videos. When I get
Houseplants.
sick and I can't go outside much, beautiful Monsteria. When I get sick and I can't go outside much, I've got recordings on my phone from the beach and of trees blowing in the breeze and the birds, and that helps me feel better.
Yeah.
What's amazing to me is how much observing has opened up my life. I say art all the time, and coming to art through sickness was amazing. For those of you who don't know, I've got trigeminal neuralgia, which is a facial pain condition. It's on this side of my face, and it means that there's a hub of nerves just behind my ear, and they don't send the correct signals to my brain. So they get skewed and send all the wrong signals. So going out on a windy day just isn't my thing. But unfortunately, I live in Melbourne. But it was through some really dark times, getting used to meds and learning what that illness was and the changes I would have to make in life that left me really, really lost, and looking for a way to be mindful and to bring kind of outdoors inside, I suppose. But I didn't really figure out that language out for myself at that time. What I did, sorry, I always get a bit emotional. I should used to say this by now. But at the time, I was so lost and I was so down. And then my hubby Gav came home with some watercolor pens, and yeah, I started drawing some really, really ugly things, but I was loving it. And of
Yeah.
course, all I could draw was leaves and flowers. And then I started getting more and more into that, and it really helped me cope with everything else that was going on in
Yeah.
life. It helped me cope. I was able to find that calm, find that feeling of, it's like when you sit in a forest and you're just looking at the trees, or you're just walking around, you're not paying attention to what's happening, you're not really thinking, that flow is just coming through you. And being able to find that stillness in art was amazing. And then finding a great community that taught me so much more about being observant. And then, yes, finally remember the wild, that really made me realize what fostering a nature connection actually meant. Like, I learnt so much from you, Kathy, and the whole team, really, because you were just so amazing. You're all so involved. So art and nature aren't just a benefit to my general well-being. They are now a real medicine in my life. I
Yeah.
can't do without them.
Yeah. Yep.
You get angry. Well, I get naturey if I haven't been out for a few days. My husband's like, should we just go for a drive? You need to get outside.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you know, when you're not noticing, my dog just pull the cable out. Hang on.
Good on you, Ruby.
Before you notice the impacts that nature is having on you when you go out and about, you know, you know that you're having fun and stuff. But I think once you do make that link of how important, just managing this cord situation, how important daily nature is in your life, like it definitely gains a massive significance, and you become more attuned to, if you have a few days where you haven't perhaps watered the plants or gone out in the garden for some reason or had a walk in nature, it's finally clear why you're so grumpy.
So if you ever chat to me and I'm grumpy, just be like, get outside, woman.
Go outside.
Yeah. So when I met you, Genevieve, I was fascinated because you've studied all of this, so you can add like this another layer onto my knowledge.
The dog's so excited about this topic too, obviously.
He is. He's like, let's go outside. You keep talking about it.
Come on, we go. They heard the word walk multiple times.
Oh dear. We should have censored that.
No, they'll be okay. They will calm down. Sorry if it's very loud. But yeah, so through my master's, it's been a funny thing. It was a master's of illustration, so very artistic, but I focused really heavily on sort of the benefits of nature and everything that you've both been talking about there. But also really heavily on the connection of this, you know, the benefits of nature and the benefits of flow state and of things like self-repeating movements. So, you know, coloring books and things have had a huge resurgence for adults. Activities like that get you into that flow state, when they're paired with things like nature sounds or just doing things outside, huge benefits. It's kind of incredible how they all link together. And I sort of found the thread that I was looking for was, it's all in sort of how tactile a lot of that stuff is, how tactile nature is, and how not quite tactile our modern world is. A lot of what we're doing day to day, you know, on your phones, your iPads, your laptops, it's all nice and smooth and shiny and flat and boring for the senses. So it was this really interesting link that I found, and I just kept pulling the thread. I kept going and going as far as I could. So I was doing all sorts of really fun things for me as well. Again, it got very selfish, but I was like, well, if I'm experiencing this, then this is something that others will. So if I can look at it and find what I enjoy and what's making me feel good, then I can apply that to others. So I did all these really fun projects. I was doing things like this. I was creating things. I tried to find some stuff, but like using all this paper and cutting it all out and getting really into it and making all these, here, let's see, this kind of thing as part of my practice work. So depth layers and just, it's falling apart. But that was a game changer for me. So being able to create that tactile, fun, in-depth stuff, but then also looking at it, looking through that and finding little things and finding the little creatures kind of mimics this act of discovery in the wild as well that you do when you're walking through a bush or down the street and you notice, you know, amazing little flower that's grown out of the cement, or you notice a strange beetle in the bush and you're like, oh wow, I've never seen that. So yeah, it was this really interesting, very roundabout way of finding all of these things and connecting them together, and it all connects so much. And you know, it all comes back to us humans and how we developed. Like, for human lifespan, 99% of it has been out in nature. You know, it's only recently that we're in houses like this. So that connection and that exploration and seeing all of the leaves and hearing the wind and, you know, smelling the rain, it's all positive for us because they were all good things when we were living out there. It's wild thread, but made everything make so much sense to me.
Yeah.
It made me go and pick something up because I'm like, I want to touch something now.
Yeah,
As you
and
can
that's
see,
it.
I collect lots of tactile things.
And that's
always find dead leaves.
it's a really human thing to touch. And, I talk about this in a lot of different aspects of life, but, you see something that looks funny, you want to touch it. That's such a human thing to connect and understand. And, these days when you are sort of surrounded by nice, flat, smooth surfaces, you are missing out on that a little bit, and you need to touch some bark, touch a tree. And, this is going off track a little, but I'll tiny side step. Really interesting research that I stumbled on and then didn't get to go further into was also all the sort of little microorganisms and microbacteria from soil and from trees that, it's really good for us. And we're not, I don't spend enough time digging around in the dirt. I need a better veggie garden. I need to get into that. But it was just so interesting to find all of these things, and they all connected in a weird way into what I do now.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I've got worms. I've got a worm farm, my first one. I just like
I'm glad you said in the worm farm.
Yeah. And it's fascinating seeing like what's in the soil and what kind of things like live around in their casings, and even the different types of worms that are in there. It's just fascinating because they've all come out my compost heap. I haven't bought worms. There's all these different ones. There's some big mamma jammers in there. And it's so exciting. And it's like, well, I'm 49. I'm still getting excited about worms. Like, seriously, how can life be?
Yeah. I think that's a common thread that that all of us are lucky to still have, and that we can easily lose going from childhood to adulthood, is that sustaining that, or allowing that curiosity to just want to know and play and things in the environment. And one of the things that's kind of a key motivation for Remember the Wild is helping people that of all different ages kind of rediscover that natural curiosity that we do have inside ourselves, but maybe we've been told, oh no, spiders are dangerous or bugs are yucky, and really kids don't start out with those ideas. That's all cultural, and it's modern cultural as well. So and I think that's one of the things we've tried to do in this Inktober challenge, is not just focus on the beautiful birds, but also on the prey items that they have and some of their habitat features as well, and get people looking at things up close, like little shrimp, and appreciating the beauty in their structure and the importance that they play in the landscape. I don't know, I would say that my like one main value, no, not a value that helps people, but a very strong theme in my life is curiosity. And I think if I wasn't stopping to poke everything I saw on my walk or touch every interesting looking texture, I don't know I think I'd be a very different person, because that's been a defining feature of my life all the way along. Yeah. And I just think that lots of people would enjoy touching things more.
Let's still go out and touch things, but it's so much fun. Like, I had friends round for a drink, and I'd brought home a sandpaper bottle leaf. God, they're such weird leaves. They really do feel so abrasive. And I'm like, oh, look at the leaf I found today, and handed it round, and that was like an hour conversation talking about it. Everybody wanted to know what kind of tree it was. Oh, what's it look like? Google it and bring it up on screen. And it is that touch. It's so awakening.
Yeah, and I think that we just, unfortunately, because our lives are so hyper overschedulized, overscheduled would be the actual correct term for that. It doesn't give us time to, it doesn't give many people time to interact incidentally with nature, and that's where that extinction of experience comes in. Because I think probably most people, if they did have the earbuds out and they were walking home from work or something and happened upon a particularly colourful flower or fragrant flower or shiny leaf or something, I think most people would. I think most people would stop to consider it, but we're so overscheduled and we've got so much on our mind that these days it actually does take a conscious effort to rebuild that sense of curiosity and wonder and connection.
Yeah. And I feel like there's also maybe a bit of overstimulation as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a big thing, spending time out in
Yeah.
nature to sort of just balance all of your
Yeah.
senses, get them back in balance a bit. So
Yeah.
it can be hard. It can be really hard to focus in on something when there's so much going on. You know, we're already trying to tackle, oh, I've got work emails and there's cars tooting and there's all of this going on that's making you so alert. That flower, it's not seen as vital. Your mind isn't thinking
Yeah.
that's important right now,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Mm. Oh, he's come back.
Hey, Pup.
Yeah, there's certainly purpose to observation to kind of get it working. But the thing is, it takes so little. Like walk down a block, walk a couple of doors up, have a look at what's on the front, have a look at what's on the nature strip. What have your neighbours got in their gardens? It can be really
Yeah.
amazing. Stand there for a few seconds, you see so much. And I know it sounds silly. And if there's any young people that will ever watch this video, they'll be like, I know what you mean. Because kids do it all the time. Like, the kids see something that catches their eye, you cannot move them. They're there, they're focused, they're taking it in. And that's basically what I want to be. Like, I know I act like a kid a lot of the time, but I actually want to feel like a kid all the time when I'm out in nature.
Yeah. They have such an incredible sense of wonder, don't they? And that's vital. I think moving forward, we all need that. You need that wonder, you need that awe.
That's it. And we can all pass it on as well, which is the wonderful thing about it. It's a gift you can share.
Yeah.
Sure is.
So talking about birds and Loki loves Inktober, why don't we have a little chat about our hero bird? Because we released our prompt the other day for Threatened Species Day. They are near vulnerable. Or have
Near
they actually
threatened, I
gone
think.
up now? Near threatened?
Now I've lost them
Sorry.
again, but sorry.
No, that's okay. So they're not at the dire endangered listing, which is amazing because it means that whatever we do now is going to help prevent that. Every little thing we do.
This
And
is
the
the
biggest
time.
thing is raising awareness. That's it. It's before they get onto that list, before it becomes a problem, because then it's already too late. There's too few of them.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to hand over to Kathy to
Oh,
share a little
cool.
bit about our hero bird and tell us why we should get so excited. Did I just spot Millie's book?
Oh, I've got many books, but yes, okay, hang on. So I'm just living with this at the moment. So one of the important parts of this Inktober challenge is to celebrate our shorebirds, many of whom are migratory. I think Australia has 37 species of migratory shorebirds, and that means that they spend some of their year here and some of their year in other countries. And the ones in Millie's book, A Shorebird Flying Adventure, and part of the Wing Threads program, they fly up to the high Arctic, so Siberia, Alaska, tens of thousands of kilometres. They'll do that trip twice a year. So they'll spend most of the year down here and then head up there to breed in the northern summer, which is our winter, and then they come back down and spend the rest of the year eating. And the bird that we've chosen as our hero species for Inktober this year is the redneck stint. And I'll see if I have got a little picture here from Millie's book. If you haven't already followed Millie's journey, look up Wing Threads. She's basically she's a friend of mine from uni. She is a zoologist and tapestry she's an artist, but she worked in a tapestry studio for a very long time. She one day decided that the way that she would connect people with these birds was to learn to be a pilot and fly with them. And so the hero bird, the redneck stint, that bird only weighs as much as a piece of toast, and yet it flies all the way from Australia to the Arctic and back every year. That's our smallest migratory shorebird. And they are so small. They're about this big. I've held them before because I've helped out on some banding projects to monitor the population. They're incredible little things. I'll see if I've got an actual photo here. This is what they look like. Whoops. When they're in Australia. So some might say that's drab, but I think they just look so soft, and I love the speckled grey, and I'm really looking forward to drawing them. A lot of Australia's shorebirds look like this when they're here, the migratory ones, because this is their camouflage colour. When it comes to the breeding season, they'll colour up, and there's not a great picture here because this is an Australian book, and so they're showing what they look like in Australia, but they have when they are in their breeding colours, this will be bright red. Their neck will be bright red, and they are just gorgeous. And one of the reasons we wanted to focus on them is they are one of Australia's most numerous migratory wader. If you head to a wetland anywhere around Australia, around the coast of Australia, in this summer and get out some binoculars, then the most of the small waders that you see will probably be redneck stints. But despite the fact that they look so common, they are declining. Almost all the migratory wader populations across the world are declining, and that's because the habitats that they use, that they need, are wetlands, and often wetlands are one of the first environments either to go for development, because we drain them to put houses on them because we want to be near the water, but we don't want to retain the swamps. So they're losing habits flyway, which takes them all the way up to Siberia and Alaska. And so with all of our migratory shorebirds, the important thing is protecting them wherever we are. Protect the shorebirds near us, and everybody along that chain needs to do the same, because each one of those wetlands is vital to them making that 25,000 kilometre journey. And because they're a small grey and white bird, they often get overlooked, but they are just incredible little creatures, and they are something that a lot of people would be able to see if they headed down to some of the bigger wetlands. And what are some of the other reasons we decided to choose them? I mean, they're really a hero for the Wing Threads project, just because they're so tiny and so adorable and such a classic.
And the big travellers, 25,000 K between Australia and their breeding grounds.
And back, I think that's the whole trip. Yeah. So there and back each year. And some of those...
they're travelling like 5,000 K between some of the feeding spaces. And that's 5,000 K without stopping. There's no stopping. Yeah. There's no landing on water. They can't land on water and take off.
No.
You're just going. It's insane.
They just go. So that's why they spend the whole time that they're here, they will just be eating and eating and eating tiny little shrimp and clams and basically anything small that they can see in a wetland, they will chomp that. And then before they fly up north to make that journey, they actually pretty much convert all of the muscles and organs that they're not using for the flight. They atrophy them, they reduce them, so they end up just being basically a set of wing muscles and their brain, and the fat that they are using to fly. So they reduce a lot of their gut, they reduce their leg muscles, and so they need every single bit of food that they can get in Australia before they make that journey, and that's why it's really important to protect the wetlands all around Australia for them to have that, because if they leave without the full component that they should have gained this year, they won't make it. And that's really sad.
It's really, really sad. You cannot be having that.
No. Yeah, but so at the start of October, we're going to illustrate them in their non-breeding plumage as our first bird, and then at the end of the challenge, we're going to actually illustrate them in their breeding beautiful red-necked plumage. And I'm really excited to do both, because I've spent not as much as some people, but a fair bit of time watching shorebirds, and what looks like a dull grey and white bird from a distance is actually intricately patterned with really soft, beautiful feathers. And I think that they're going to be really, really satisfying to paint.
Looking up the photos just of the redneck stint, I'm amazed at the detail and the colouring that's in the feathers. And some of the markings are so fine, and I know a lot of artists that are into their textures and they're into their marks, so I'm really excited to see what everyone's going to come up with.
And
but the main thing is, like, we give it a go. Some of my shorebirds are going to look atrocious, I'm sure of it. I'm not used to drawing birds or painting them, but it's just going to be fun. And I mean, I couldn't really do animals when I did my first Inktober, you know, that was kind of really new to me. And
Yeah.
by the end of those 30 days, I got so much better. So if you're looking for a new skill, if you're
Mm,
looking to try out new material or do something new, this is a great way of doing
yeah.
it because you're going to be doing something every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel that's a nice little segue into talking about Loki Loves Inktober. And I got
Mm-hmm.
really excited because I figured out the ticker tape. There we go.
Yay.
We'll put that one on instead. It's not as big on the screen. So I am beyond excited for this year. It's going to be absolutely huge. We have so much planned. So we've got another kind of chat session next week where the countdown really begins and we'll start diving in. So we'll talk. If you come along next week, we're going to share lots of tips in how to set goals and all kinds of things that myself and Genevieve and Kathy do when we're trying to do a challenge or we're preparing ourselves for a big challenge like this. It's a race. You don't want it to be a marathon. You gotta take it in small bites.
Yeah. Definitely.
But what I'm really excited about is learning more about the habitat. So when we go live next week, the list is going to be public and you're going to know so much more about it. And I'm really trying not to put my finger in it and share the wrong things.
Yeah.
But we're really going to help everybody get an understanding of shorebirds, understand, you know, what their challenges are, what they're amazing at, what makes them so interesting, and all about their habitat as well, which is going to be so fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. And throughout October, we're going to have webinars where we're going to have a scientist or expert joining us to share some more as well. And I'm super excited about that. I get tingles when I hear anybody sharing their passions. And it's just like when I hear both of you speak, it just gets me excited. And then, you know, when you've got an expert or a scientist on board and they're sharing the lived experience as well as learned experience about animals, or insects or habitats or whatever it may be, it gets me super excited to learn more as well. And I'll generally go off and do a load of my own learning.
Yep. Yeah, me too.
So, Genevieve, what do you think you're most excited about for Loki?
Oh, I don't know if I can say too much without spoiling a bit, but the way that we're structuring it this year, I think, a little bit different to how I've done it in the past, and you'll all find out more next week. But I'm very excited about that difference. I think it's going to create some wonderful opportunities, wonderful artwork, wonderful visual stories.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really interested about learning about the food because obviously, you know, it's just mollusks and things. Well, what are the differences? How do they live? I'm going to learn about a whole new kind of understand all the understand species and what they eat. And I get really excited about learning about mollusks and things, the shapes that are there and the way that they live. Like I only learned the other day that scallops have eyes.
Yeah.
They've got thousands of eyes. I didn't know this. It blew my mind. I'm like, nah, this is fake news. I'd know about this by now.
Yep,
Didn't
so many
have a
eyes.
clue. So
there's this real
much out there.
One of my lecturers currently, because I am studying again, I'm studying zoology and animal science now. So all roads lead to this. But he references as you've got your charismatic megafauna, you've got the things that a lot of people are very interested in, and then you've got your charismatic muddy fauna, and it's all of that stuff, and it's just wonderful. Yeah.
Absolutely love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, there's a few things to think about that I wanted to bring up with regards to an art challenge, and that is, I think the most important thing is time, because it can really, you can get carried away and it can really eat into your time. So I know I've had a couple of people ask me how do I manage this through the month because they haven't done anything like a month-long challenge before. So for anyone else out there who hasn't done it, the important thing I think to set is a realistic time frame, depending on the time of day that you create, that you can kind of set a timer, get lost in the activity for that time till the timer goes off, and then you can always call it quits or come back to it and fiddle with it a little bit more later on.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be using watercolor, my process is a little bit slower. But I'm going to change it up to be a lot looser this year because I'm quite tight. I do lots of details, so I'm going to try and be looser with my details and have some fun with that. So I generally set about an hour, give or take. Sometimes it takes me a long time to do the drawing, so it might be an hour 20, but I try and set an hour so that way, you know, when my head comes back off the page, it's not 11 o'clock at night. The other thing is reducing the amount of tools. Make a decision on what it is you want to use, what medium you want to use, and reduce that down if you can. If you have too many colors, too many tools to use from, it generally ends up getting a bit overwhelming and overcomplicated. You know, it can be as quick as a 15-minute warm-up sketch before you start painting and just get into the flow and loosen that wrist. It can be learning, like me, learning how to draw a shorebird. What are the shapes that you've got to take into account? So we're going to try and help everyone out with that a little bit more in the next couple of weeks as we learn kind of what that is. I'm sure Genevieve's better at painting shorebirds than I am. Your birds look amazing when I look on your Instagram. So,
she's got a...
It comes back to that as well. It's lots of sketches. And you know what? You don't have to be producing something finished every day. There's something so beautiful in explorative sketches that, you know, 20 sketches of that particular shorebird or that prompt for the day on one page that just shows this progression.
Amazing,
I think that's what I'm going to end up doing, because I know I am really good at getting started in these challenges and then never finishing. So I've got a real challenge this year to finish it. And so I'm really going to go really small and say commit to at least a 5-minute drawing each day. And I think, and I think that will teach me to look for the important features. And I'm sure it's going to be easier with some things. Like I do love drawing birds, so I think I already look for the things, and maybe those sketches will be quicker and easier than, say, soldier crab or something like that. If we have anything like that. But I think sometimes that kind of quick sketching from all different angles, that's a really good way to see the character of an animal. And also it hides. For me, I like quick expressive sketches because they give life without actually being very detailed or good.
You can capture movement really well as well in these sketches like that. I love that. That's going to be great, and it's something that you can fit into your day, right?
And I'm sure I'll do longer than 5 minutes most times, but you've got to, for me, I've got to commit to the minimum, and then if I'm enjoying
myself, and then
myself,
you see how you go. That's it.
The other thing would be, my biggest thing when I'm doing a challenge like this, you need to forgive yourself. If you do miss a day, if you only have, 2 minutes to spend on a day, don't let that stop you from the next day. It's a clean slate. Every day, forgive yourself for yesterday. Absolutely.
Definitely do not beat yourself up. I have never done full Inktober.
Neither.
I think 2021 I missed 2 days. I know I missed about 4 days. I had surgery last year at the start of October. Good timing, Vanda. But I've never done a whole one. You don't have to do it every day. I would love it if everybody tuned in to one of our posts each day just to see what the species is and to learn a little bit more about it. But you don't have to. Some days you don't. Life happens, We're not going to hold you accountable for it. You shouldn't hold yourself accountable for it anyway. The point is you're taking part.
Absolutely.
So, I know someone who they've only got weekends. They work really long hours. So they're going to pick 1 or 2 prompts from the week and put them together somehow. There's so many ways. So we've set the prompt list up, but it's not set in stone. It's up to you. You're the creator. It's up to you. So make your own goals, decide how you want to tackle plan it. You might decide to do a long landscape with everything in there. It's completely up to you. And it's open to every single gym, every skill set. If you're a family and you've got kids into art, drawing, get the out and have some fun together. It's a fun before or after activity for half an hour. And, you know, you don't have to find all the facts because we're going to help you with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love it. Oh, I can't thank you enough for your time, ladies. Thank you. It's been such a fun talk. I'm so excited for Loki Loves Inktober 2023 for our shores and wetlands. So we have started putting the reference photos together and the content together for it. As you can imagine, it's a lot of work, and we will be there very, very soon. The prompt list will be public before we go live on the 18th, so you'll be able to check that out beforehand and submit any questions you'd like to ask us on the live. We've also got, you know, if you'd like to sign up and become a subscriber with Loki Loves, you can jump onto my website, lokiloves.com, and go through the menu to Loki Loves Inktober 2023. And there'll be a sign up form there where you can join. And that gets you early access to prompts, exclusive content, opportunity to jump on calls with me in the lead up and during the month as well. And of course, all the inspiration from Remember the Wild and Genevieve. And all we ask from you is to join in. Just get active, join in, check out everyone else's artwork. We've got such an amazing community. I love our community so much. And everybody's super, super supportive. So you don't need to be shy. If you've, I'll give you a perfect example. I've done many drawings that I think are awful and posted them for Inktober and got so much love for them. And it's just because I've given it a go.
Yeah.
And that's all that really matters.
Absolutely.
And any artists out there, we're also going to have a fundraising sale. So if you'd like to make more impact with your art, there'll be a form coming out to all subscribers in the next week or so you can join in with that. Okay, I think that's enough hot air from me.
well, from all of us, maybe.
Yeah. Well done,
I love listening to you two. No, it's been so much fun. So yeah, please sign up, join in. Even if you don't want to get arty, just check out the prompts, maybe share a couple of things that you like. There's going to be some incredible art with time constriction when you set your goals up, is that you can create really amazing things that wow yourself in that time frame. So just give it a go. Awesome. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye, everyone. Have an amazing week. Bye. Thanks so much for watching.